Hello and welcome to Hakuna MaChatter. We have an incredible video here for you today. We are talking Entergalactic, the new animation on Netflix made by Kid Cudi. I'm joined by a very special guest for this review, exploration, dance into Entergalactic. I've got Leo Rydell from Geekly Goods. Leo, my brother, how you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm doing so well. I'm glad to be back chatting with you about this film. It's so good, man. I mean, just creative in like thousands of different ways, but beautiful story, wonderful animation, great characters, good themes as well. Man, I really enjoyed this. This one kind of snuck up too, I will admit. Netflix's marketing for this one has not been that great because I recall before it came out, there was like a few trailers and a few teasers here and there. But then when it came out, it just seems like there was like no talk about this. I actually remembered to watch it from your post on Twitter because you were praising it. And I was like, look, if Hakuna MaChatter then gave it the seal of approval, I need to check it out. So I checked it out, was very happy with the results. And yeah, I can't wait to talk more about it, man. It's so good.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree, like, because I remember definitely a few trailers coming out, but I think the same as you, I saw someone tweeting about it and it went, oh yeah, that's on there. And so yeah, I managed to jump in and watch this film. So for everybody watching, we're going to be breaking down the different areas of this film. I'll jump the time codes down below, but we'll be looking at the story, we'll be looking at the animation, we'll be looking at the representation in this film, as well as the characters and the music, a big part of this film obviously being made by Kid Cudi. So if you want to skip to anything, just jump in those time codes, or if you want to join us for the whole breakdown and chat, hey, just stick around and we'll get this. Very quickly though, Leo, how are things going over on your channel? Where can people find you? Let them know right at the top and then we'll jump into this.
Yeah, for sure. Again, thanks for having me on. You guys can find me at youtube.com/geeklygoods. Coming off of a big break here, so I have some content that I'm planning on creating this week. So come on by, guys. There's a lot coming up around the corner. We just had Marvel's Werewolf by Night. We'll be releasing a video on that and several other videos coming up on the channel. So come follow me over there. I'm also Geekly Goods on all other social media platforms. Dusting off the dust here and getting back to content creating. So come on over. Let's talk some geek. Thanks again.
Okay, so let's jump in then to Entergalactic. I'm just going to read the short synopsis from IMDb for everybody here. Jabari, a charming streetwear-clad artist on the cusp of real success. After a chance run-in with his cool new photographer neighbor Meadow, Jabari has to figure out whether he can make space for the love in his life. So this is our short synopsis of the film. Leo, this story-wise for Entergalactic, what did you think? How did it grasp you? Do you think it was a good story? Break it down for us. Let us know what you thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a good story. I will admit at first it was a little slow, but I did enjoy the pace overall. I think when it got to chapter 2, that's when it really started to kick its feet off and get really comfortable, and you started to really start figuring out what was going on. Because I mean, it was just establishing itself within those first 30, but it was a really nice, relatable story, I believe. I mean, there's some things that are a little wild, but like it's pretty relatable in the sense that, especially as a Black creative, the themes that they explore of not losing your identity in your artwork are just so like beautifully story told. Like I love exploring this character of Mr. Rager and how Jabari was brought into this comic company in order to assert his voice into it, which we can get into that a little bit later. But I was not a fan of Lynn, my man. You gotta quit with that phrasing, my guy. But yeah, I think the story is good. It explores many different aspects of the character of Jabari, his job, his love life, his creative career, and things like that. And I think that is something as a Black creative that I could just relate to. It's something that is like, okay, here's where how high you can go. And also to see Black successful people and creatives, always a joy, always a pleasure. No exploring the hood or anything like that. It's just nice to see him in a great apartment, having a great time with friends. It's just like something that's like so fun and refreshing to see. So a great story from beginning to end. I loved the character of Jabari. Thought it was like cool seeing him, like I said, in many different aspects of his life. So I liked it, man. I loved it. we talked a little bit before this, like
Yeah.
it was supposed to be a TV, like a mini limited series. And I could kind of see that structure coming through in the chapters, because the chapters are so different. Like it's like one chapter is kind of introducing us. Next chapter, we kind of get into Jabari's work life and they introduce the love interest. Then another chapter explores other themes. Like there are just like these rich stories within the chapters themselves. So it does kind of feel like it's set up like a mini series, but it plays well all back to back to back. So really well done story that's simple, but yet complex in its themes and explores a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And it was kind of what's kind of really nice as well is that it takes over as a love story as well.
Mm-hmm.
And but one that, you know, I think it uses the full power of the animation, and the animation we'll get into a little deeper in a moment. But, you know, when you kind of are exploring the themes that you're talking about, and then the extra themes around your love life and love stories and whatnot, and you're working within a medium that is, you know, the one that this is, you got to use that to your full extent to tell your story. And I think it really just comes alive. We get to understand the inner thoughts of the characters a lot more, because you can pop up things on the screen that's going, I mean, you can do that in live action, but animation can do it in a way that really just soaks and draws us in. And, you know, I have seen some people comment that, look, at the end of the day, Entergalactic's just a simple love story. But I think when you start on simplicity like that, you can allow your characters and you can allow your medium to take it that next step better. And so I actually admire it just being a simple story. And it's something that I said in my post about it, was that it's just a nice chill vibe, low stakes kind of film.
Yeah,
we're not worried, you know, look at both of us with our Marvel stuff in the background. You know, we're not worrying about saving the world right now. We're worrying about just, as you say, being a Black creative in everyday life, and then a love story is happening at the same time as that. And I think that was just really beautiful, and especially when you have the characters that you do, because Jabari was great. There's, you know, the stuff that Jabari does. I think, did I message you guys and saying that with Leo and I in a group chat with a few other creatives, and I think I just said I don't smoke, but it made me want to roll up a J, get on my bike, and just cycle around London with a roll up. Do you know what I mean? Like any film that can make me feel like I want to do something I don't usually do, it's a good film. It's a good film in my books.
100%.
Yeah, right. So look, I've already kind of brought in the talk about the animation. So let's move very nicely onto there. Now, you were saying sort of in our sort of preamble before we hit record that it took you a while to get going with this kind of animation. It was kind of very sort of stop motion-y in a way, wasn't it? Do you want to delve in deeper with that? Let us know what you thought.
Yeah, you know, what's very reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse. It kind of has this not at kind of staticky movement where it does feel like, because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I know that they removed like 2 frames in between frames or something like that to give it that more kind of stiff but comic booky like feel. It feels like that's the same technique they went with here. So at first, it did kind of catch me off guard a little bit that they didn't move as smooth as I had expected. However, didn't take long for me to get into it. I mean, it's beautifully done. I mean, these characters are so much like their voice actors that you can identify who they are. I mean, just weird, looking at them. I was just like, oh, that's something that you don't commonly see. I mean, Jabari, Kid Cudi. The first girlfriend, Laura Harrier. I mean, it's just like easy to identify. The only one I would say that was like kind of maybe a little bit different looking was Timothée Chalamet. But I mean, his character's bald, so I'm like, we're used to seeing him with hair. But I mean, even Macaulay Culkin down to him. I mean, you knew a lot of the characters. Like
he was kind of uncanny valley, that one, because I was like, I was looking at his and I was like, why do I know him? And then when I looked it up after, I was like, oh, Macaulay Culkin. That explains everything.
With long hair, like, oh, okay, that's a different look. But the characters look so much like their voice actors. Love that detail. And honestly, just the world itself is so colorful. Like this art really does feel like it came to life. And the many different mixes of greens and reds and purples and blues, it just melds together so well. We were talking about it before we started, talking about the montages and just how beautifully they flow together. Things that you can only get away with in animation, where it's these smooth transitions, characters getting so high and seeing all these colors. And it's just really, really colorful and immersive and brings you into it. It's really well done. And like I said, at first, that jitter, I was kind of like, okay, what are we doing? But then
Yeah.
After about 20 minutes, man, like I'm wrapped up in it. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
it. And it looks so good. And the scenes where we break from reality a little bit and go and explore the imagination, and it's like in space. So well done. I mean,
Yeah.
just beautifully done.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. And like one thing that kind of really stands out about it as well is that a lot of the wide shots of like it's so simply animated, and that the backdrop is I mean obviously, but it's just a drawing, and it kind of it's static, while and the foreground elements are the things that are animated and that move. And so it kind of almost can really link it back to one of those final shots in Matrix Revolutions, when Sati paints the sky for Neo, and it's just it kind of really reminiscent of that. Like everything is just this beautiful almost oil painting, and then you have these foreground elements, as I say, that just that's where the life is. But then it doesn't mean that you're still not drawn to the background, and you're just like, wow, there's like, it's simple but there's so much detail in there, and I want to be able to take it all in. Did you have any standout animation moments that you can remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, so when Jabari and Meadow were on the bike riding, he was they were riding back to their homes, and she was on the back of his bike, and it just breaks into this like intergalactic bike riding scene. Like it's just like, wow, these two are so in love with each other that it feels like they're in space. Like it's just so what's the word I'm looking for? It's so beautiful and organic that like it opens up this spacious, beautiful space like feeling that it's like, okay, this is nonstop. Like this is unstoppable. Like, so it's just beautifully done. And every time they have those little breaks in animation, like the dream, and like it just flows so seamlessly into it. Like the transitions are seamless, and it really does just add to the story every time. Like it's not just thrown in there. It really helps enhance the simple story that we're working with.
Let's talk about the representation, because I think this was a big thing for me, and you've kind of already touched on as to why, and I think we've got the same reasons here. But it's a low-key, chill vibe, low stakes kind of film, but it's also black-led, black-made, and it's just filled with black joy. As you say, it's just watching successful black people go about their daily lives, and creative black people as well, which you and I both are. And so that's just kind of, draws us in a little bit more. But what more do you want to say about that, my man? Because it's an important aspect.
Yeah. So I love, first and foremost, like you were saying, it's just nice to see black creatives, no hood slang or anything like that. Like we're just creative, we're successful. Like, I love that we're exploring that and not the usual themes of coming out of the hood and, having to hustle to get where you like. No, Jabari is a successful black creative. This comic book company wanted him.
Yep.
And what I love, and that bright, white and light, that chapter, which I think was chapter 2 or 3, really opened up the just staying within your identity.
Yeah.
And I love the dream sequence because it really plays to that, right? I mean, Jabari was just told by another employee of color to white your stuff up, basically. And just to see that play out in his mind and how it didn't feel organic, it didn't feel right, it didn't feel good to him. It just goes to show that like these things, A, do happen, but B, to always take your identity wherever you go and be unwavering about that. Because Jabari, what was so good about his character is in the moment when Lynn and him have the first exchange, there's not really a question in his mind at the time of trying to change it. It's just like, nope. He's like, I was brought here to put my identity on the page. Like I wasn't brought here to conform or to change. I was brought here to put my identity on the paper. And so that's what I think his character really represents, or the character he draws really represents, is that like, no, that's unwavering in your identity. I'm not going to change that. And when it did change in the dream, it did feel off. There was a monster. There was, what I mean? It was like, it had changed his story up. So like, I love, and Meadow was also very supportive of that as well, reminding him in, I think, the next chapter, not to lose his identity in his work. And I love that thread of the movie of like not losing blackness, not losing who you are due to being in this creative environment, which can be very white, bright, white and light. So I love that chapter and that whole motif of exploring keeping your identity, and also just Black love. I mean, it's just nice. Again, I keep going back to this, but it's just nice to see a Black movie where there's just no hood, there's no ghetto stuff. It's just straight up Black love, Black creative, Black success. Like, it was just beautifully done. Like, I love it, man. Loved it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you've touched on something really nicely there about sticking with your identity, because it's true. Like, you can, you know, in order to get ahead, you sometimes can lose yourself a little bit and, you know, play the game a bit to get ahead, which, you know, it can work, but, you know, what do you lose along the way? You know, and if you begin to lose yourself, and if you begin to lose the things that got you there in the first place, or that brought you to that place in the first place, like, and what's really nice actually is that we start with these characters who are already in successful positions, right?
Yeah.
We're not seeing Jabari trying to get to that work for that comic book company. No, he already works there because of who he is. We don't see Meadow trying to get her place at the gallery. No, she's already got the gallery. She's just curating the content now. I think that's a beautiful place that we start with these characters as well. And then, yeah, it's like, okay, so once we've reached these positions, do we sacrifice ourselves in order to work through them and to keep them, or do we stick with who we are that got us there in that first place? And so, yeah, it's a big important message in there. And I think it's important for creatives, like, you know, the reason we stand out is because we're individuals. And I think so, you know, we forget that at times. And of course we do, you know, everyone goes through the imposter syndrome, and that's just kind of how it is.
It's easy to get sucked up into it. You know, it's easy to get sucked up in the hurricane of conformity. I mean, it is because you go to a new company, you want to do well. It can be easy to change your stuff up, but like, no, I love that it's like, keep who you are and put that on the page.
I'm loving what we're talking about so far, but one thing we've mentioned that we need to dive into is this cast, and these characters a bit more, because this is an incredible cast. And I'm just going to flash some pictures up on the screen for the viewers. I'm just going to read out some of the names that are in this. So, I mean, obviously we've got Kid Cudi, down as his, I'm assuming what is his birth name, Scott Mescudi, who plays Jabari. Kid Cudi. We've got Jessica Williams, who voices Meadow. Of course, I think most recently she'll be best known for being in the Fantastic Beasts series. Laura Harrier, who everyone knows most, I guess, from Spider-Man Homecoming. But then it kind of gets crazy after that, right? The fact that we've then got the likes of Timothée Chalamet, Vanessa Hudgens, Keith David, Jaden Smith, Macaulay Culkin. Like, it is an incredible... Luis Guzman voices a character right at the beginning of the film, and then he's never seen again. Like, it's just like, what an incredible cast and an incredible set of characters. Leo, who were some of your standout characters and actually some of the standout voice performances in this film?
Oh, well, for sure, Kid Cudi. And like I said, it was funny because you can really identify. You're like, oh, that's Ty Dolla $ign. Yep. Yeah, it's just like easy to like identify them. Jessica Williams. I mean, you just know these faces. So I love that the characters are actually look exactly like their actors, because it's nice to be able to be like, oh, like, even though it's not live action, you can still identify like, oh, that's Kid Cudi. That's Jessica Williams. That's Laura Harrier. That's Ty Dolla $ign with the crazy braids. So I love that you have these identities with the characters. It's funny. I really like the trio that Jabari was with. I think Timothée Chalamet, Ty Dolla $ign, and him were just like so fun to be around. Like, you wanted to go party with them. You know, it was like they were three very different personalities that were all best friends and super close. And I feel like when you get a trio like that, you always want to connect with them because they're all so different. They're all so individual. They're all so memorable in their characters. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, the rich white drug boy, Ty Dolla $ign, and who is this smooth, crispy, cool cat. And then you got Kid Cudi, who is, you know, creative and successful creative. And I love just bringing them together, seeing them party, and it just made me want to be out with them. I was like, hey, like, make some space for this, homie. I'm coming to chill with y'all. Love those characters. Macaulay Culkin's surprise cameo. I'm just like, wait, is that Macaulay Culkin?
Don't, man. It was just so surreal. I was like, why do I recognize that face and that voice?
Also, same thing with Keith David. When I heard Mr. Rager talk, I was like, that's Keith David. Like, I mean, you just instantly know his voice anywhere you go. But I mean, top to bottom. No,
I
go
just
ahead.
love that. I love that he was voicing a Shadow Man again. You know,
I know. That's his regular gig, man.
Keith
I'm
just
like,
voicing Shadow
damn.
Man.
But yeah, I really like the whole cast, man. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was great to me. And like I said, I just love that the characters look exactly like the actors.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everyone just kind of, there seems to be a great chemistry just throughout that cast as well. You know, I think,
Mhm.
you know, Kid Cudi's chemistry with both Jessica Williams and Laura Harrier, I think is just brilliant on both sides. And
Yeah.
you could, you know, especially with like when we open the film and we see where Jabari and where Carmen are in their broken relationship, and yet they still have this beautiful bond and friendship, and that kind of comes from the chemistry that Cuddy and Harrier had. And it was just kind of alive already. You know, we didn't really learn much more about Carmen, but she definitely felt like an alive character within that world, you know, that she had stuff she wanted to, you know, that she was chasing. But I think simply from the performance of Harrier that, you know, because, you know, as I said, she didn't have much development throughout the film, but she still feels like this whole character that you want to learn
Yeah.
more about and you want to see more of. And, you know, even though she's Jabari's ex and we're following Jabari's new love with Meadow, well, hang on a minute, you know, how is Carmen? What's she getting up to? Is she all right? You know, you kind of still feel for her a little bit,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
Because there was that bond between them, you know, and it's all it took was her handing him his phone and her mom was ecstatic to like hear from. It's like, okay, clearly you could see that, yeah, this was a past relationship, but they had a really good bond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you hit nail on the head there. The fact that her mum is like, oh, you're in the room, great, you're coming to this christening then. Like,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't even know what's going on between them, but it's like, no, you're coming to the christening. So standout character for me, I think we've got to talk about Meadow. I think there was something just really intriguing about her at that beginning, you know, how we just get those flashes of her. And she's, you know, I really love that scene when she's having the party next door and he's like, yo, what's with all this music? What's the racket? And the moment he sees her and she's like this intriguing, ethereal, just, you know, what is going on here? And, you know, Jabari goes through that typical lead character, jaw drops, the lights come up and he's like, who is this amazing person? But she's just kind of cool from there. Like the fact that she comes around the next day and just like, yeah, look, sorry about that. Do you want to go get some lunch? I'll treat you to lunch just to say sorry. You know, she kind of feels like just someone who's really like nice and genuine, is just out here to have a good time and not offend anyone while doing that, which I really, really enjoyed and I really loved. And even when they have that, as all rom-coms do, to have that kind of like complication midway, you know, there's never real anger between them, which is really nice. There's just sort of, it's definitely comes across that it's her insecurities. And I think that's like really important. I think a lot of rom-coms just sort of make it about the thing and not about the people, you know, it's about, no, you did this one thing to me, you did that one thing. And no, for her, it's like, okay, look, I misinterpreted a situation. That's on me. I've just got to, you know, work through it, and then we'll figure it out. And I think that's just really nice. It kind of made it feel quite grown up in that respect, quite mature.
Yeah,
which
very mature. In neither circumstance between his ex-girlfriend or between Meadow, they didn't need to show them shouting. They didn't need to really show a heightened disagreement. So I thought, playing to the maturity aspect, I thought that was a good button as well. We just didn't have to make it so anger fueled and so you know, just so heightened. Like it was just like, hey, you know, need a break, need some time away.
And
that's
we'll talk about this. Exactly. Yeah, which I really, really loved. Well, let's move on to the music then, because obviously it being Kid Cudi and Ty Dolla $ign, like music is a massive thing in this film. Hit me up, man. Tell me what you think.
Oh, great. I mean, from top to bottom, every musical cue, every musical scene, and the mix of many different styles of music as well. It didn't just explore hip hop. It didn't just explore, like during the art gallery scene, you have a more classical vibe mixed with some Kid Cudi-isms. That's what I call them. Cudi-isms. A couple of sounds that are familiar within the Kid Cudi library. But I think that it's beautifully done. I mean, just it accompanies the scenes very incredibly, and like sometimes the music is carrying the story, like especially in those montage scenes where it's just you're seeing the characters, but the music is really taking you through their journey. And it's like that first little montage with the trio and they're going out to these parties. It's like that carries the music carries that entire montage. And not to mention like the different music needle drops too, like during the dream sequence where it's a little more harsh and gritty. But like, like the music really carries this movie a lot through a lot of montages, a lot of breaks in speech, a lot of moments where we just get to kind of marvel at the different art pieces or through a montage or things like that.
Yeah.
We get to really hear some great beats. I mean, Kid Cudi literally is like a painter with music. So between him, Ty Dolla $ign, anybody else who was behind the production of the music, it's beautifully done. And that was one aspect of this movie going in that I knew. I was like, oh, no doubt about it. This is going to have some fire music. And lo and behold, it did not disappoint.
Well, this is it. And I think definitely at times, listening back to the soundtrack post watching the show, it kind of comes across to me that there are times, definitely in those montages as you hit and those dream sequences, that the film is just becoming an extended music video for the album, right?
Yeah.
And I think there was seeing some of like Kid Cudi's tweets and his Instagram posts. I think that was largely a visualization method for him for getting it sorted, or definitely an intention that in a way this film is supposed to play out as an extended music video, because they complement each other so beautifully. Look, it's not always my favorite kind of music. I can't lie. Like I'm into like some hip hop and rap, but it's never been like top of the bill for me. But coming back and listening to this soundtrack when you want just a chill vibe while you're trying to like have a calm morning, or you're trying to wind down in an afternoon or something, it's just beautiful. Like it really does. It's one of those albums, one of those soundtracks that really can just take you somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? If you let it, if you really do let it, and you really just kind of chill out. Like I was hanging my washing up the other day with it on, and it was just nice, man. I've never like been so chill hanging washing up before. Like it was nuts, but it was great.
It sets a mood.
Yeah, it really does.
Kind of reminds me a lot. There are a lot of beats and motifs and montages in this music that reminds me of lo-fi. Like it's very lo-fi, very chill, very like hip hop's the top of my music chain. So like when I heard the like more subtle lo-fi calm vibes, it was like a nice refreshing change in what I thought we would be set up with in most of the movie. But it's dreamy, man. It's dreamy.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very good. Amazing, man. Look, so are there any other like last standout things from Entergalactic you want to bring forward, or just anything that we've already spoken about that you just want to reiterate to kind of sign this thing off?
Yeah, like I just want to reiterate this: more creative, successful Black stories, please. Like Netflix, let's keep them coming. I want success. I want to see characters who are already successful in their field. Let's quit with the grindhouse stuff where it's just like, oh, I gotta grind 9 to 5 to become a comic book artist. No, let's see these characters in their success. And let's see more stories like that with Black creatives, Black executives. Like, let's see more of that, man. I think for the representation and for depicting Black lives, there are successful Black people out there. There are successful Black creatives. Every story doesn't have to be about going to the hood or grinding your way through a 9 to 5 and then doing this at night. It doesn't have to be that every single time. So I love this. Yes, it's refreshing. Like, it's just like, we don't have to be in the hood, Elliot. Like, it's great. It's just great to see that, Like, it's a nice, refreshing change. And I think Kid Cudi just painted a beautiful creation out of this all. And it's just really well done. I think it's so chill. Like you said, it's just something that you can just throw on and enjoy. Yeah. Not this heavy saving the world story. It's a wonderful love story between two Black creatives that are successful in their field.
So, Leah, thank you very much for joining me and talking about Entergalactic today. Just remind everybody where they can find you and, again, what you've got upcoming now that you are going to be grinding the content again.
Well, thank you for having me back on, Elliot. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you, my friend. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Over on Geekly Goods, y'all. Shoot, I don't know what we got coming up. We got House of the Dragon. We got all kinds of stuff around the corner. Titan season 4 is going to come out at some point. Like, we got lots of stuff to cover, y'all. And I got a little catching up to do. Couple of things I'm going to be putting down. I'm going to be working on a video for Marvel's Werewolf by Night. Maybe not a traditional review, but a video for that. And all kind of little geeky little things coming out, y'all. So come on over. Hit up Geekly Goods on YouTube. You'll see 2 Gs. That's me. Come on over. Let's talk some geek, y'all. There's a lot to talk about and a lot around the corner. So come on by.
Amazing. Yes. Do make sure you hit up Geekly Goods and Leah Rydell. We have been connected for a long time. He's a great channel, and it's always great to have you on, Leah. Thank you very much. And for anybody new here on Hakuna MaChatter, this is your place for everything positive in diversity and representation in film and TV. I've got a video in the works. It is UK Black History Month here in the UK, obviously. So I've got a video around that coming out. So do make sure that you check that out, as well as a few other things I'm working on with spooky season in motion at the moment as well. So do make sure you come back if that is all sounding lovely to you. Drop this video with a like. Let us know your thoughts on Entergalactic in the comment section down below. What did you think of the film? I want to hear your thoughts. Let's start a discussion. Thank you very much, everybody. See you again soon. Until next time, Hakuna MaChatter.